I always heard the saying, who you become in your 20s is who you are in your 30s. And my intention was to never necessarily change who I was at my core level. My core level, I always knew what I wanted. I always knew that I wanted to become a business owner. I always knew that I wanted to be somebody who worked hard. I always knew that I didn't want to be remembered by the result. I always wanted to be remembered by the work, the dedication, the discipline. I take far more pride in that than I do in the result of the business. I take far more pride knowing that I am willing to wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm willing to sit down and make cold calls for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day when other people wake up at 6 a.m. and go to a job and avoid cold calling. I've always known that I wanted to be more known for my work ethic and my dedication than I did any result that came of it. Obviously, I needed the results for any of it to matter. But I only recognize this because I spent time with myself all throughout my early 20s and in my teens. When I was in college, I started off at the University at Albany, and I did not make it into the School of Business there after my sophomore year of college. I slacked off in my freshman year. I partied too much. I went out drinking too often. I spent all my money on weed. I did not go to class. I was too busy smoking blunts and smoking joints than I was going to class. And I suffered for it. I did not get into the School of Business where I wanted to go into. And I thought that I was going to go into the School of Business, get a degree in accounting, and then I was going to move to New York City where I was going to go into investment banking. And that is what I thought my trajectory was going to be. I thought I was going to do the Wall Street thing. And instead, because I slacked off and because I decided that partying was more important than grades, I didn't get into the School of Business. And I had a choice to make. I could either change my major and then hope that I could end up somewhere along the lines in the same school doing the same things, or I could change schools and go into a School of Business to get myself a degree. And I made the choice to change schools, which is how I ended up at SUNY Geneseo. And from there, I had to commute for the first semester because I didn't want to take out any more student loans. I also didn't want to live on campus in my junior year. So in my first semester, I commuted to school, which was like 50 miles each direction. And it took me about an hour and a half to drive to school every morning, closer to 2 hours, actually, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it sucked, but I spent a lot of time by myself. I wasn't there to make friends. I didn't want to get back into partying. I was there to go to school and I was there to work out and I was there to go home in that semester. And then in the second semester of my junior year, which was my first year at Geneseo, I moved into a singular room in a house by myself and rented it with this family who lived in the basement. And the main floor was like conjoined. We could all go in there. It was like a shared space. It was a living room and a kitchen. A bathroom was down there with the shower. So we could all use that space. But in the upstairs, there was one room that was all mine. And I spent a ton of time by myself in those days. And I learned a lot about myself through the videos that I watched on YouTube, through what I chose to do in my free time on weekends. I chose to work. I didn't choose to do nothing and play video games. I chose to go and work my part-time job that I had at the time, which was a grocery store clerk, basically. And then also in that time, I read a lot of books. I was still waking up at 4 a.m. That's when I really got into the habit of waking up at 4 a.m. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. I would read books in the wintertime when it was warmer outside. I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would go to the gym almost instantly. And I just spent a lot of time by myself learning who I am in my own thoughts. And during this time, I actually deleted social media off my phone. I deleted Instagram off my phone. I didn't really have Facebook anymore in the first place. I never really was one on Twitter. So I deleted the one thing that I took that I could use for scrolling. And back then there wasn't Reels or YouTube Shorts. So it was all long form video content if I wanted to watch anything. So I only watched YouTube and I basically only watched videos of entrepreneurs and how they built their businesses. And everything that I did was like Warren Buffett, his philosophy on investing for the long term, Mark Cuban, how he built his business, what his skill set was, Bill Gates, how he built his business, what his skill set was. Mark Zuckerberg, how he built his business, what his skill set was. And it was just a lot of businessmen. How did they become successful? How do they think? Can I adopt this? And can this be who I become? Because in my early 20s, I always knew that I wanted to become a business owner. I always knew that I wanted the freedom and the responsibility that it was to be a business owner. And that was my goal. So who was I in my 20s? Who am I still in my 20s? I still wake up at 4. I run my own company now. And my life focus has really, it was constructed in my earlier ages. Before I was ever in my 20s, I didn't really read. I started reading in my 20s. Before I was in my 20s, I was big into exercise, and then I fell out of it when I got into partying and drugs. I got right back into exercise and weightlifting, and that's who I am today. And then I also started businesses on my own, started making money on my own from my college dorm room because that's who I wanted to be. Alongside of reading these books and watching these videos and staying within my own thoughts, I also said, what do I want to do? And when I sat there by myself, the only thing that I wanted to do was start businesses. I was doing digital media, digital marketing. I started drop shipping companies. I took on inventory and everything was digital. And then right afterwards, I went into sales and I wanted to become a salesman because I knew that in order to start a business, something had to be sold. That's who I was. You become who you are. But more importantly is when you sit with your own thoughts, who are you? You get to form your own thoughts. So when you sit by yourself, you get to choose the media that you are invested in watching. If you are bored and you pick up your phone to watch something, you can either choose to scroll or you can choose to sit there and learn something. I chose to sit there and learn something. I wanted to watch entrepreneurs who have become successful to a level that I want to get to, that I aspire to, people who inspire me. And I wanted to just take on what they thought, and I wanted those thoughts to become mine. I want their success to become mine, not necessarily in the same field that they may be in, but I want to be as successful in my field as they are to theirs. I want to be as much of a game changer in my industry as they were to theirs. I want to go out and create new ways of seeing the world. And I want to create new products and new services that are out there to change the world for the better. What do you want to do? What thoughts do you have when you sit by yourself? I'm by myself now, and I came out to record this video because I've been sitting here all day watching videos about business, and there's not really a business supposed to be done today, and it's all that consumes my mind.